Have you ever wondered if there is a silent signal in your body capable of revealing exactly how much testosterone you produce, without the need for tests, needles, or laboratories? It seems impossible, but it's not. And understanding it can completely change your energy, your strength, and your vitality. The truth is simple but brutal: your testosterone drops between 1% and 2% every year after age 30. That slow decline, almost imperceptible day by day, is what over time leaves you with less energy, less strength, slower recovery, more abdominal fat, and a noticeable loss of physical and mental drive. But the surprising thing, and what almost no one knows, is that your body is already sending you the most precise signal of that hormonal decline, and it has nothing to do with a clinical test. Various studies have shown that grip strength is one of the strongest and most reliable indicators of male hormonal status, and it often even surpasses several testosterone tests used in routine checkups. Why? Because your grip isn't just hand strength, it's a direct reflection of neuromuscular function, bone mineral density, the activation of your mechanoreceptors, and the health of the largest muscle groups in the body. All of that is intimately connected to your hormonal production. And the evidence is overwhelming. A recent study found that men who are able to hang from a bar for 60 seconds had testosterone levels 23% higher than those who could only hold on for 30 seconds. This difference is not a trick or a coincidence. It is a clear biological response. When you apply sustained tension to your muscles, especially through grip and pulling, your mechanoreceptors send a direct signal to the endocrine system to increase natural testosterone production. This activates pathways like mTOR, increases neuromuscular demand, and stimulates anabolic responses within minutes. That's why a well-designed grip and pulling protocol can raise your testosterone in just 15 minutes, without injections, without supplements, and without endless workouts. And that's why, in this video, I'm going to reveal that exact protocol, a minimalist method, validated by real science, that any man can apply starting today to restore strength, energy, libido, and vitality completely naturally. When natural testosterone production is analyzed from the perspective of human physiology, it is impossible to ignore the decisive role of the neuromuscular system. Testosterone doesn't rise simply because a muscle works, but because certain specific mechanical stimuli activate deep receptors in the skin, tendons, and joints that send signals to the central nervous system, particularly the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, the two organs responsible for regulating the male hormonal axis. This direct relationship between mechanical signal and hormonal response is called mechanotransduction, and it is one of the most studied mechanisms in recent years due to its impact on both strength and male hormonal longevity. This is where the so-called fundamental isometrics take center stage, static positions designed to activate the largest number of mechanoreceptors in the shortest amount of time, maximizing the response of the endocrine system without relying on endless routines or excessively heavy loads. These exercises not only awaken the densest musculature of the body, forearms, trapezius, and deep core, but also activate a high-demand neurological state that forces the body to improve its hormonal production in order to adapt. Exercise 1. Hanging from a bar. The exercise known as hanging from a bar stands out as the absolute foundation of this hormonal protocol due to its simplicity and physiological power. By hanging from a bar with the arms fully extended, the weight of your own body generates total activation of the grip, a region that contains the highest density of mechanoreceptors in the entire musculoskeletal system. These receptors, especially the Pacinian and Meissner corpuscles located in the fascia of the hand and forearm, react immediately to stretching, pressure, and the microvibrations produced by constant muscular tension. That sensory torrent travels through the peripheral nervous system to the hypothalamus, which regulates the release of GnRH, the hormone that triggers the entire cascade of production in the testicular axis. Recent studies show that individuals capable of maintaining the hanging exercise for 60 seconds present significantly higher levels of basal testosterone, improved function of the hormonal axis, and better bone mineral density. In addition, the position decompresses the spine, reduces thoracic stiffness, improves scapular range of motion, and activates the stabilizing musculature of the core, making it an integral stimulus that improves strength, posture, and hormonal profile simultaneously. The reason why the hanging exercise activates the hormonal system so strongly is due to the sum of several physiological loads that converge simultaneously. First, the passive and sustained stretching of the lats, teres, and pectorals produces a mechanical release of myofascial stress that improves circulation to deep tissues. Second, the continuous tension of the grip stimulates the flexor musculature of the forearm, one of the areas that loses strength the fastest with age and that, when properly stimulated, sends constant signals to the central nervous system to adapt. Finally, the activation of the trapezius, particularly its middle and lower fibers, stabilizes the scapula, allowing for a deeper breathing pattern that increases blood oxygenation and reduces cortisol, the main antagonist hormone of testosterone. The relationship between cortisol and testosterone is inversely proportional. When one rises, the other falls. That's why this exercise not only triggers the correct neurological signal, but also reduces physiological stress, creating the perfect environment for the male hormone to rise naturally. Exercise 2. Farmer's Walk. The farmer's walk, or holding heavy loads in each hand in a static manner, represents the second pillar of the grip-based hormonal stimulus. Unlike hanging from a bar, where the force is generated mainly by vertical tension, in this exercise the load is transmitted directly to the forearm, trapezius, and core through a compressed vertical vector. This compression generates a deep activation of the stabilizing muscles of the torso, especially the transverse abdominis, the internal and external obliques, the quadratus lumborum, and the spinal erectors. The hormonal key of this exercise lies in the simultaneous combination of isometric tension, axial compression, and stimulation of the grip mechanoreceptors, an ideal formula to trigger a high-impact neuroendocrine response. When heavy objects are held for 60 to 90 seconds, the electrical activity of the forearm nerves doubles, activating not only the Pacinian and Ruffini corpuscles, but also deeper mechanoreceptors located in tendons and joints. These receptors respond extremely sensitively to sustained load, sending signals to the spinal cord and the hypothalamus that force the body to release anabolic hormones to maintain the structural integrity of the body. In addition, the farmer's walk stimulates the upper and lower trapezius, muscles directly related to posture and neck stability. The activation of the trapezius not only increases strength and muscular endurance, but also improves blood flow to the cervical region, where important neural pathways involved in regulating the endocrine system are located. This synergy between grip, posture, and stability makes the farmer's walk an extremely efficient exercise for improving testosterone, functional strength, and overall endurance. But what truly makes it a differential tool is the systemic load it imposes. Unlike traditional exercises where only one muscle group is activated, here the entire body enters a state of biomechanical alert that increases the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. This activation generates an acute rise in adrenaline and noradrenaline, hormones that act indirectly by improving the release of GnRH and increasing the sensitivity of hormonal receptors. In other words, this exercise not only elevates testosterone, but also optimizes the way the body uses it, improving strength, stability, and overall performance in a single stimulus. Now, when the architecture of the male body is analyzed from an endocrine perspective, there is a critical detail that many people are unaware of. The muscles of the upper body possess one of the highest densities of androgen receptors in the entire organism. This means they are the first to respond to testosterone, but they are also the most capable of influencing its production when stimulated under strategic mechanical tension. This bidirectional relationship, muscle sensitive to testosterone plus muscle that stimulates testosterone, turns the upper body into a hormonal tool of enormous impact. However, it is not simply about training it with weights or doing meaningless repetitions. It requires a specific type of activation that combines prolonged isometric tension, joint stability, total neural activation, and maximum fiber recruitment. This is where the so-called upper body activators come into play, static positions that capture the essence of mechanotransduction in its purest form. These postures force the nervous system to recruit deep fibers, stabilize the scapula, maintain a pressurized core, and sustain intense muscular demand without repetitive movement. The result is an ideal internal environment to elevate androgen receptors, improve hormonal sensitivity, and boost natural testosterone production. Exercise 3. Sustained inverted row. The exercise known as sustained inverted row is one of the most powerful tools to activate muscles that are extremely sensitive to changes in testosterone levels. By holding the final position, with the chest touching the bar or getting as close as possible, the body enters a state of isometric contraction where the posterior chain, especially the lats, rhomboids, middle and lower trapezius, and rear deltoids, works at extraordinary intensity. These areas contain an exceptional density of androgen receptors, which means they not only respond to testosterone, but also stimulate it through the principle of localized metabolic demand. Sustained tension increases the need for recruitment of type 2 fibers, the largest, densest, and most metabolically expensive, which sends a direct signal to the hormonal system to raise testosterone levels as an adaptation mechanism. In addition, the activation of the grip, absolutely essential in this position, reinforces the connection already established in the previous exercises, multiplying the mechanosensory signal that travels toward the hypothalamus. The sustained inverted row not only strengthens the posterior chain, it creates an internal chemical environment where testosterone becomes more available, more active, and more efficient. The reason why this exercise has such a profound impact at the hormonal level is due to the perfect combination of isometric tension, scapular stability, and sustained neural load. Holding the body suspended in the final position requires a simultaneous contraction of large and small muscles, from the lats to the deep stabilizers of the rotator cuff. This multiple activation produces a massive discharge of afferent signals that enter the central nervous system, forcing it to maintain high-level coordination. When neural demand is elevated, the body increases its use of testosterone to enhance synaptic transmission, improve tissue repair, and sustain strength. This means that holding this posture not only makes you stronger, it activates a biochemical circuit where hormone availability is optimized. In addition, the act of maintaining the position with the scapula retracted and depressed improves blood flow to the thorax, increases intrathoracic pressure, and reduces fatigue of the cardiovascular system. All of this decreases the release of cortisol, which is critical, because cortisol is testosterone's #1 enemy. When it rises, testosterone drops drastically. The sustained inverted row, therefore, not only stimulates testosterone, it also protects the hormonal environment so it can rise without interference. Exercise 4. Dip hold. The exercise called dip hold is one of the most powerful hormonal activators that exist, and its ability to stimulate testosterone is due to a combination of biomechanical and neuroendocrine factors. Keeping the body suspended in the lowest position of the movement, with the elbows bent, the chest stretched, and the shoulders stabilized, places the pectoralis major, anterior deltoids, and triceps under a deep stretch. This type of stretch, sustained and under load, activates a phenomenon called prolonged mechanical tension, the most powerful stimulus to activate fast twitch fibers, which are extremely dependent on testosterone. When these fibers are under passive stretch, especially during a sustained position, they send signals to the nervous system that increase the activation of the HPT axis. In addition, the deep stretch of the chest opens the rib cage and allows for broader breathing, which reduces activation of the sympathetic nervous system and decreases cortisol production. This balance, reduction of stress, increase in muscular demand, deep stretch, and intense isometric tension, creates a physiological environment where testosterone can rise naturally, sustainably, and efficiently. The dip hold also increases shoulder stability, strengthens the sternoclavicular joint, and improves core function, 3 essential factors for maintaining high hormonal levels in men of any age. The most powerful aspect of these 2 exercises is not each one individually, but the cumulative effect they generate when integrated into the same hormonal strategy. The sustained inverted row activates the posterior chain, increases the density of androgen receptors in the back and rear deltoids, and reinforces posture and grip. The dip hold, on the other hand, activates the chest, triceps, and anterior deltoids, the areas with the greatest hypertrophy potential in the upper body. Together, they create a circular activation that stimulates all the main muscle groups related to the production, sensitivity, and utilization of testosterone. In addition, both exercises occur under isometric conditions, which increases internal mechanical pressure and produces a deeper and longer-lasting hormonal cascade. While the sustained inverted row reduces scapular stress, stabilizes the thoracic spine, and improves respiratory function, the dip hold opens the chest, increases oxygenation, and reduces cortisol. This combination, high tension plus deep stability plus strategic stretch plus sustained neural load, creates the perfect environment to elevate testosterone naturally, without the need for extreme weights, endless routines, or supplements. In terms of hormonal optimization, these two exercises constitute one of the most intelligent, complete, and scientifically supported stimuli that exist. On the other hand, the so-called full-body amplifiers represent one of the most powerful physiological stimuli to elevate testosterone naturally, sustainably, and scientifically proven. These deep isometric exercises, far more demanding than they appear, have the ability to simultaneously recruit the main muscle groups responsible for the production of lactate, a critical metabolite that acts as one of the most influential signals in the release of both testosterone and growth hormone. Science has shown that when large muscles, especially the quadriceps and glutes, work under sustained tension, they generate a high-demand metabolic environment that sends signals to the endocrine system to release anabolic hormones with the objective of repairing, strengthening, and expanding those tissues. Essentially, these exercises transform muscular stress into an amplified hormonal response, and they do so without the need for external loads or endless routines. This is where three key exercises integrate: the horse stance, the sustained glute bridge, and the wall sit, three pillars capable of creating an exceptionally powerful hormonal cascade thanks to their ability to activate the muscles with the greatest density of androgen receptors in the human body. Exercise 5. Horse stance. The horse stance is one of the oldest and most effective isometric exercises in the history of physical training. Its origin lies in ancient martial arts, where it was used not only to develop strength, but also to cultivate exceptional internal stability and mental endurance. From a modern physiological perspective, this exercise is a masterpiece. By lowering into a deep isometric squat and holding it for 45 to 120 seconds, the quadriceps, glutes, adductors, spinal erectors, and a large part of the core are activated simultaneously. The constant tension in these muscles generates significant lactate accumulation, and that accumulation is not an accidental byproduct, but a key stimulus that triggers a robust hormonal response. Lactate acts as a metabolic signal that increases the release of growth hormone and creates the necessary environment to elevate testosterone at a systemic level. In addition, the deep position favors intense activation of type 2 muscle fibers, the explosive fibers that have the greatest impact on hormonal production and body composition. The longer this posture is held, the greater the lactate release, and consequently, the greater the activation of the hormonal axis. Exercise 6. Sustained glute bridge. The sustained glute bridge is possibly one of the most undervalued and most powerful secrets to boosting testosterone naturally. The glutes are not only the largest muscle in the body, but also one of those with the highest density of androgen receptors, which means they respond extremely efficiently to increases in testosterone. But the opposite also occurs. When the glute is activated intensely and continuously, it sends signals to the central nervous system to increase testosterone, generating positive feedback that strengthens both the muscular structure and the hormonal axis. Holding the glute bridge for 45 to 60 seconds produces continuous tension on the glutes, hamstrings, and deep core. This tension promotes a significant increase in blood flow to the pelvic region, which increases the transport of hormones, nutrients, and oxygen to tissues with high androgen sensitivity. In addition, the sustained bridge improves neuromuscular activation of the gluteus maximus, a muscle that tends to become inhibited due to a sedentary lifestyle. When a large and highly hormonal muscle like the glute reactivates fully, a remarkable endocrine signal occurs. The body interprets that it must increase its anabolic capacity and naturally elevates hormonal production to adapt to this new demand. From a biomechanical perspective, this exercise also stabilizes the pelvis, reduces lumbar pressure, and improves the efficiency of the hip extension pattern, which translates into more powerful movement and more robust hormonal production. Exercise 7. Wall squat. The wall squat is an apparently simple exercise, but it is deceptively intense at the physiological level. By descending until the knees form a 90-degree angle and maintaining that position for 45 to 90 seconds, the quadriceps enter a constant state of tension that temporarily interrupts blood flow to the muscle fibers, which generates a strong metabolic burn and a rapid increase in the accumulation of hydrogen ions and lactate. That burning sensation is not a negative fatigue signal, but a clear marker that the body is entering a metabolic state ideal for hormonal release. Science shows that metabolic stress, generated in a controlled manner, is one of the most efficient stimuli for increasing the production of testosterone and growth hormone, even more than the exclusive use of heavy loads. The wall squat also has a notable neurological impact. It forces the quadriceps, glutes, and core to work as a solid and coordinated unit, increasing the efficiency of the nervous system to recruit high-threshold motor units, the same ones responsible for muscle growth and the most intense hormonal response. In addition, this exercise improves joint stability, strengthens the tendons surrounding the knee, and trains the nervous system to tolerate and process high levels of effort, which amplifies the body's ability to release anabolic hormones during and after training. The true strength of these exercises not only lies in their individual effect, but in how they interact synergistically within the organism. When the horse stance generates lactate, the sustained glute bridge activates the area with the highest density of androgen receptors, and the wall squat creates deep metabolic stress in the quadriceps. The body experiences a convergence of physiological signals that forces the endocrine system to raise testosterone in order to handle this total load. This phenomenon, known as neurometabolic synergy, occurs when different large muscle groups, each with high hormonal sensitivity, work under conditions of sustained tension. The result is a much more intense hormonal response than what would be obtained by training those muscles separately or performing short-duration dynamic exercises. In addition, these movements activate the hypothalamus, pituitary, testicular axis through multiple simultaneous channels: mechanoreceptors, metabolic stress, deep neuromuscular activation, and respiratory modulation. The body interprets this combination as a situation that requires restoring, repairing, and enhancing muscle tissues at a systemic level, and therefore increases the secretion of testosterone and growth hormone in the hours following training. This interaction creates a domino effect: greater muscle activation, more lactate, more endocrine signaling, more testosterone, more strength, more muscle activation, an ascending cycle that transforms hormonal physiology with surprising speed. The 15-minute protocol works because it combines neuromuscular, mechanical, and metabolic stimuli in a precise sequence that directly impacts the hypothalamus, pituitary, gonadal axis, responsible for the natural production of testosterone. Its architecture is designed to first activate the mechanoreceptors of the hand and forearm through the bar hang exercise, which is performed for as long as possible to generate an initial pulse of neurological signaling that travels to the hypothalamus. After a strategic 90-second rest, enough time to recover the nervous system without dissipating the hormonal signal, the farmer's walk hold is performed, an extremely demanding isometric contraction for the forearms, traps, and core. The sustained tension for 60 seconds creates an accumulative neural response that enhances the sensitivity of androgen receptors. Then the sustained inverted row hold comes into play, performed for 20 seconds in the top position to activate the posterior chain and the muscles with the highest density of androgen receptors, such as the lats, rhomboids, and rear deltoids. After another measured rest, the static dip hold is performed, where the lowest position of the dip places the pectorals and triceps under a deep stretch rich in mechanical stimuli capable of triggering a pronounced release of anabolic hormones. Each of these first 4 exercises targets an essential component: grip, neurological signaling, androgen density, and deep isometric tension. The second half of the protocol amplifies the hormonal response through the metabolic stimulus of the body's largest muscle groups, legs and glutes. The horse stance exercise, held for 45 seconds in a deep isometric squat, increases the accumulation of intramuscular lactate, a metabolite that acts as a direct trigger for the release of testosterone and growth hormone. After a 90-second rest, the sustained glute bridge exercise, also held for 45 seconds, activates the largest muscle and the one with the highest density of androgen receptors in the human body, the gluteus maximus. This not only increases the hormonal signal, but also improves pelvic blood flow, essential for testicular function and overall endocrine health. Finally, the protocol culminates with the wall hold, a 60-second isometric position that provokes a deep burn in the quadriceps due to the rapid accumulation of hydrogen ions and lactate. This last piece of the puzzle raises the metabolic response to its highest point and generates a global hormonal pulse that acts for 24 to 48 hours afterward. The total duration, exactly 15 minutes, is not arbitrary. Studies show that exceeding 18 minutes increases cortisol, the antagonistic hormone of testosterone, while training below that threshold reduces the effectiveness of the stimulus. Therefore, time is part of the mechanism, not a secondary detail. Progression is achieved by adding 10 to 15 seconds weekly only when each interval is completed with perfect form. The expected results include sleep improvements, more stable morning energy, elevated motivation, a sense of internal strength, and hormonal peaks after each session that, accumulated over 4 to 6 weeks, transform the individual's overall vitality in a measurable and remarkable way. If you're ready to leave behind chronic fatigue, lack of motivation, and that feeling that your body no longer responds like it used to, this is the moment to act. Not tomorrow, not when you have time, the best day to start is today. If you like this content, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this video with someone who needs to feel strong, focused, and alive again. Your transformation doesn't begin tomorrow, it begins right at this moment. Your body and your health will thank you. Thank you for watching this video and see you soon.